industry professional. So VIPs are not so important here. What's more important are MIPs. We're talking this time about when the artist makes the money, when the music industry professional makes the money, what will they do? We're looking at Show Me the Money, which is wealth management, investment, and insurance for the MIP. And leading this charge, we have Otis Hamilton from Sagicor. Could you put your hands together for Otis? Otis Hamilton from Sagicor. Up next, we have Dr. Kerry Wallace, Executive Director of the TEF, which is the Tourism Enhancement Fund. You notice how our tourism and our culture walk hand in hand. Very important to us. And then we have, I love his name, Lee Croft Fadden, Senior Investment Manager, JMMB. He is Lee Croft Forden. Welcome, gentlemen. Take it away, Otis.
Well, thank you so much. And of course, it's amazing being here. Now, we are going to be touching on a part of the business that everybody thinks about, but they really don't spend enough time working on. It is the money part of the business. And I'm happy to have this conversation with the persons here. We have a person who can speak to us in regard to the macro element of the business in a general sense. And of course, we have a wealth advisor, investment advisor, that is going to give us some detail in respect to how to invest, because we always hear this term investment. But most of us are clueless about it because we go to primary school, high school, and it's just when we leave college, if a few people go to college, they hear about what investment really all about. So I want to start there. What is your appreciation of investment in a general sense?
Good afternoon, and I'm going to make my opening remarks brief, but I'm going to start that coming after Sean Paul is difficult, right? And you can see it immediately.
It's a little unfair.
It's a little unfair that when you look in the audience based on what was there before that we're come on, right? So I would encourage those persons who went outside to come back in, because this part of it is, and we have seen it throughout the world. We have seen it in the Caribbean. We have seen it in Jamaica. You earn a whole heap of money at some point in your life, whether your parents died and left something for you, or you're an artist, or you work in the music industry, and you have an uneven income flow over your career. Or you bust big, and you make a couple millions one time. How do you manage that money to last you over a particular period of time? Some have done very, very well, and still some struggling. We have developed some particular expertise that we believe can assist the creatives. And when I speak of the creatives here, I'm just talking about the audience here in terms of artists, artist managers, etc. Whether you're an athlete, right? Whether you lift up the sound box, whatever. And if COVID taught us nothing, it is that how you manage your money is important, and particular the music industry that needed to pivot during and after COVID. And so we believe that there are some things we can do and we need to do differently. How we manage our money post-COVID. How do we develop wealth? How do we create wealth and ensure that GLC, that X5, that house on the hill can be maintained even when it is that you have passed the peak of your career. Now, most artists will tell you that they won't retire. But certainly, you'd want to decide if you want to or not. So that will be my opening remarks as it relates to a starting point.
One second before, I don't want to interrupt you because I have to leave, but I'm so sorry that there's not enough people here. And, it is very insightful because this part is, to me, the most important part of the whole conference, to tell you the truth. So not because I don't want you to get discouraged because I don't see enough people there, but last night we have a session where we run straight until almost 3 o'clock. So half of them could wake up. Seeing so,
And Shaggy, we know half of them run at the back and take picture with Sean Paul, so it's
yeah,
all right.
yeah, but it's a small amount, a small amount, a small amount, and some of them downstairs. But this is the very, very important part because, like I said, it is making the money is one part of it. Making the money work for you down the line is the other part of it. And the thing about having wealth management and having financial literacy is what the artists them really need to get into. And what I'm bringing to you guys also, while just please somehow talk about how you guys can basically do business with, because a lot of financial institutions don't want to do business with artists because they feel like the music industry is not tangible. You understand what I said? Just like how on the panel before, they're saying tourism have to have 12% of GDP before them can make a budget because they don't look at, they don't know how to measure entertainment and art. So I don't know if that is one of the problems. But I wanted to focus on that to make them understand how we can make it, because everywhere else in the world it's tangible. People are selling catalogs now for hundreds of millions of dollars, right? And why can't we borrow on those catalogs, right? Or somebody that has a catalog, why wouldn't they be able to borrow on it or create something to where it's tangible that people can borrow on it and open credit lines on it and go ahead and start businesses on it, right? And set up. So just them little things there. I forgot to make a little run, but I just want to put
Shaggy, you
that
tap
in
into some of my speaking points, and I look like
Thank you very much. So
my
I'm glad for
notepad,
that.
you know. So thank you very much for that.
Right, just to make sure, say, it does connect, right? Because sometimes I find that most of the people that are very educated is sometimes them talk, like when liar talk and we don't also can understand it. So if you can break it down for them too, to make them understand, and so we can basically make it happen. Yes, sir? So bless up.
Yeah, man, respect. And we know Lee Craft is him talking about it, a super educated thing. But, but of course, there must be a connection. And before I even ask Shakira, I'm going to tell a story. I met a young lady from Canada who would deal with a travel agency lady. I asked her, how do you sell Jamaica? And the young lady said, there's nothing to sell. And I vexed with her. I nearly get dark. But she said, think about it. Our beaches, you can't find better beaches outside of Jamaica and the Caribbean. We don't have the big Disneyland and all them stuff in Jamaica. So I say, so why so much people come to Jamaica then? And she said, the culture. So now I'm jumping to you, Mr. TEF. The connection between the culture and tourism.
All right. So I heard what Shaggy said about the financial literacy, and if you don't mind, I did a few slides just to try and share that with you. When I thought about speaking here, that's one of the things I wanted to share with you as much as possible. I believe that if every single one of you, if you're not wealthy now, I can make you wealthy. So just give me a few seconds with these slides, and I'll share it with you. A lot of this comes from the Robert Kiyosaki book, Rich Dad Poor Dad. How many of you read that? All right, excellent. So it'll be a refresher for those who have read it. So pretty much one of the things that many persons don't realize is that how we've been conditioned. You go to school, pay attention, get the grades, go to college, get a degree, get married, get a job, and then work. And when you get the money, you buy a car, you try to get a promotion. All those things are just the way to stay average. And so what I want to share with you here is how do you go from average to amazingly wealthy. So here is a quadrant. On one side, you have active income. Active meaning you have to work for it. You have to be there to do it. If you're a performer, you have to go on stage to collect that money from the tour. If you are a producer, you have to be there to produce. The other side is passive income. Passive income is where you are making money, but you don't have to be there. You can be in a bed sleeping. You can be on holiday. You can be on a yacht somewhere cruising in the Mediterranean. And something is making money for you. And I wanted to look at those. 90% of the population are employees. And that is in the active income. If you don't, try not go to work if you're an employee. Try not go to work for a month and so what happen. You won't get that salary, you make, and if, and the problem is 90% of us are there. Not saying it's all bad because you can be employed having the security and those things, but then you can still invest on the other side, the passive side of the quadrant. If you are self-employed, it's also active.
Yeah,
So
like
you
most persons in the entertainment industry.
are self-employed. I mean, doctors, they're making more money, yes, at the end of the month, but they could be the biggest neurosurgeon in the world, and you charge 100,000 US per surgery, but you can't stay home and sleep and collect that 100,000. You have to be there with your scalpel and whatever, doing the actual surgery, right? So that's still active income. So let's go over to the passive side. When you run a business, and I have to distinguish here, it's not just a business where you have to be there. You have a big bunch of key where you have to open it up and you have to lock it up. That's still active. Passive is when you don't have to be there. You have managers managing your business, people managing your business. Adam Stewart, he have what, 11 hotels across the Caribbean. He don't have to be at every hotel. He has people managing it. Adam Stewart could be on his boat right now. And those hotels are bringing in money for him. The final one, anybody want to guess? Investor. So the business is where people work for you to make money. Investor is where your money works for you to make money. So how can we move from the active side to the passive side? Because that is the real deal. That is wealth. You could be the biggest artist today, only making money when they book you and you have to jump on stage. But if you don't convert those monies over into the passive side, then you are going to have to constantly be working. Or if you're a sportsman, an athlete, your time being active is limited. So the best way to convert it to where you don't have to be out there physically working and still earning money is to move over to the other side, the passive side of the quadrant. So I'll give you a quick demonstration of how you do it. You could be a street cleaner. You could be the man who waved the flag on stage. Or you could be a top artist. All of this will apply to you. So when you get your income, this is how most people do it. The 99%. They earn them salary or the earnings from a show or the whatever. They might get a tip or a gratuity or a bonus. What do you do with the money? When you get a paycheck, what do you do? Right, you spend, you pay your bills. Well, them take the taxes out of it first. And then you pay for your house mortgage and you pay for your car and you pay for all those things. Right? And then the money finish and what happened? You wait before the next paycheck come, you just pay a check. And that's a problem that 99% of our people do. If they get a promotion and get a bigger salary, what happens?
Bigger
Them
house,
get a bigger
change
car,
the
a bigger house, right?
Nicer car.
Them can't leave you. Them can't drive a small car and me no manager. No, sir. I have to drive a car like a manager now. And you buy a bigger car with a bigger mortgage and your paycheck again just goes right out and out the window. Active income. You have to constantly be on that treadmill working all the time in order to earn. But here's the way to do it. When you do get your earnings, what you need to do is invest in assets, income generating assets that are passive income stream. The tax is going to come out, yes, but can you invest in real estate? Yeah, real estate is what, 40 million house. That's probably a big step, right? But can you invest in some stocks maybe? A business investment? You have a friend who can be good and them well want start up to sell cakes. You partner with them and say, listen, I'm going to put this money in you to buy the equipment, buy the oven, invest in you, but I'm getting 50% of the shares. So it's your friend every day baking and battering eggs and all that kind of thing. You are probably still at work, but that investment now, all of a sudden, month end come, and you have an extra 100,000, whatever it is. And then you do the next friend, and so on, and you find 200, 300, 400,000 before you know it. I am a living example right here. I work at TEF government salary. Yeah, executive director, yeah. But I have a piece of property in the grill where I have put cottages every single year. I get my gratuity, whatever, invest. Right now, I earn more from my Airbnb in the grill than from my salary at TEF.
It's a good look. It's a good look. That makes sense. It makes sense.
So there are other ways. I mean, you in entertainment, a big one that you have is intellectual property, your royalties. I was talking to the lad inside the green room just now who played the young Bob Marley. And I said, please tell me you're getting royalties from the movie. And I'm saying, no. I'm saying, he wasn't in the roles that they provide royalty for are higher, that is number one and number two guys. The extras at that level is tough to negotiate for that. But in the entertainment business, please work hard on those things, trying to make sure you get royalties. If you're a band player, ask the questions, how do I make sure on every record that goes out, there's a little royalty section for me, because that's my passive income stream that I am trying to develop. Now, as you do that, your income is going up every month. So it's not just the one paycheck that you had before. No, you have the royalties coming in, you have the Airbnb or the long-term rental monies coming in and so on. Your income every month is fatter and fatter and fatter, so that you can then invest more. You still have your bills to pay, but you pay those bills after you have invested in passive income streams. And when you get to that level of what we call financial freedom, that's when your passive income streams, your monthly passive income streams, exceeds your monthly expenses. That means you can sleep the whole month and you have enough money to pay all your bills. Not saying you're going to sleep, because once you get into that financial intelligence levels, I promise you, you're going to be so excited that you're too busy looking for the next investments to make. And I'm sure my fellow investors here will talk more about that.
Why it is even more important with persons within this field is that there might be a month that you don't work, or 2 or 3. Because if there are no bookings coming in, if there are no activities, if you have something like COVID that write you off, make you can't travel, then right away you would have needed to lean on whatever that passive income is. And a lot of times when the funds come in, because we can't necessarily budget, I am an MC as well, so you find that there are some seasons that I get an income like this and some that's like this, so when the wedding scenes come around, I'm good. But you find that in this arena, that is how it is, and you have to plan your way around surviving every part of that timeline. So what do we do then to ensure that there's some systematic funds, we don't want to call it salary, because most of us are, as I say, we're self-employed. And as such, you have to create some type of system. For me, it makes sense to become a business, or make your business a true business. Go beyond just going on stage and performing, and then when you collect that money, you spend it and hope that somebody book you next week, right? Turn it into a business where that business pays you. So when person pay your income or your payment for that event that you do, or that activity or whatever you put on, it goes into a company, and then that company pay your salary on a monthly basis. And that's where I asked Lee Craft to jump in. How we make something like that work so that we can systematically have a lifestyle that can be maintained in up and down seasons.
All right, so I'm going to make it real for you. So one of the difficulty we have in the banking sector, financial sector, many times is to get an artist or even a manager to sit down with you and look long term. Yeah. At their peak, it might take a few years owning their craft, and there comes a point where they're global superstars, or many try to, but not a very small percentage, really become superstars. It doesn't mean the tier below is not earning significant sums. Yeah. I've had many experiences, too many, where you have attempted to reach out and say, hey, we think you need to sit down and let us look at this thing. Do you need to buy this now? Do you need to make these investments in the depreciating assets? No. Exactly. It is the most difficult conversation, one, to convince them that this is not the right time to do that. Yes, you were getting around before. You have gotten a break. Here's what we need to do now. Here's a 5-year plan. Here's a 10-year plan. I'll tell you, there are money managers in Jamaica And we have seen, I don't think Bolt would sue me, that we can drive around Kingston and we see his investments all over. He posts them on social media. He has a team around him. There are assets that you can invest in outside of your regular stocks and bonds and trying to be an expert in every single thing. Just like we go to the doctor. You're not the money manager. You're the artist. But the pressure that an artist is under is that he makes a million, he's seeking to do the same thing, and he's of the view that he will do it for the next 30 days, the next 10 years, and the flow will continue. So it is a conversation to be had with the industry. And I heard a question in an earlier panel discussion from a young person about how do you teach them this money management from very early. But remember, creatives in general, and that people would have probably, a lot of it is you're born with it. It's a gift, literally. So it is not as if they went to school for the particular skill. So they are very informal in nature. And then you're trying to put a structure on top of that and say, hey, you earned $12 million last year. Let's average it out. It's $1 million. Have you paid your taxes? Have you gone to NIS? Have you gone to NHT? How do you put a structure to say, okay, if next year is not as good as the last year, have you paid into, is your estate in order? Have you paid your taxes? Can you claim anything from government? The gravy train doesn't run forever. It really doesn't. If you look at an Bolt, how many years? Well, 5, 10, 15 from high school, there's an earning season. And how do you maximize during that earning season? We all have a financial life cycle. Some of us won't come bulk up in one period of time. Others, it come later on in life. At some point, it comes. But how do you manage that into perpetuity? How do you leave a legacy beyond that everybody knows you when you walk into the supermarket? How do you leave a legacy for your family? How do you prepare for your retirement? In preparing for this presentation, I looked around in the UK. Less than 30% of the artists there have a pension plan. I think it would be worse in Jamaica. I think it would be worse in the Caribbean. Right? How do they open the door to the expertise that exists? That you don't have to do everything for yourself. Their assets are now going up. People have invested in hotels that you can own a percentage of a hotel. You don't have to own the hotel. There are businesses going up that I work in the capital markets also, that we structure and we're trying to raise 5, 10, 15 million. We know within our sporting fraternity, the creative fraternity, that money exists. There are many times we have to go overseas to look for that money. But if we brought them together and say, hey, here's a plan, you're owning a piece of this business. You don't have to be buying every single apartment hoping to get rent from it. We're saying to you, within an industry, if you were to be able to raise this capital and you own a piece of this business into perpetuity, forget the Benz. The Benz is the least of your issues right now. The BMW is the least of your issues right now. Let us invest this money. Let us use some of our football stars playing in overseas leagues right now. What they earn per month could give them a stake, big stake, in many local companies listed on the stock market. But you sit with them and say, 5% of the company is worth X. This is a company that has a trajectory to grow. If you own a piece of this now, literally tomorrow morning you could retire. Your biggest income is coming from outside of your particular profession. It is coming from your investments. But I will tell you that it is very, very difficult. Having been in the industry, sat down many, many times and say, hey, here's a plan. This is how we can work it. When you're no longer the number one artist, or the manager, or carrying the box, or selling the peanuts, whatever it is you do, wherever you participate in the value chain, we're saying that the expertise and the assets exist for you to invest in and become an owner. The same, I heard Shaggy earlier, Mr. Burrell earlier, speak about the creative. There's no creative space in Jamaica, but there's in Trinidad. I'd want to suggest that there's enough capacity within the said industry, but I would want to also bet him that if he said, hey, get the architectural drawings, it's going to cost us X dollars to invest in this, and the industry own it, that you would have difficulty raising the same capital from the same industry who wants it. But you would have to put yourself together in that way in order to attract government funding. He asked a question earlier. We needed to speak to your catalog. Everybody knows a catalog has a value. I heard one of the Marleys speaking about how much money they were offered by Michael Jackson for Bob's catalog. Then 20 million US dollars must have seemed like you could buy the world. Yeah. What is it? 25 years after that offer was made. So my advice would be, how as an industry, and this, I guess, this conference is a part of it, about how you put the ideas out and put them on paper. So when you meet with the ministers of government, when you meet with the banking industry, when you meet with the tourism industry, you say, these are the specific things we need. This is how this industry can be, first of all, how do you value it? Shaggy spoke about 12%. How do you value what is the impact of entertainment on the Jamaica? Anecdotally, we know, because we know say Peanut Man make, we know say Gate Man make, we know say Soundbox Man make, we know. But how do you quantify it? So when you go to the bank, do the artists have they paid their taxes? So we can say, okay, this is what we have collected from
by the way, I know every time you mention taxes, some people cringe, you know.
Yeah, man, me know.
But there's a way.
Like it.
There is a way to manage the process. When you think about it, when an artist goes on stage, the clothes that they have to wear is an expense.
Yes.
Driving to the event is an expense.
Yes.
The entourage that you have to cater for is just like when Beyonce and everybody else have to have them security,
absolutely.
have to have them advisors, everybody with them. These people are an expense. Mm-hmm. That is why if you manage your business in a way that you can clearly depict that these elements are my cost centers, then they don't operate as your salary. So as such, it can't be taxed the same way. In fact, it can't be taxed at all because your expenses that allow you to do your business. And if you have the right type of person advising you, most of your presumed income turns into an expense. We have seen so many artists fall in problems with the taxation system and required to pay millions and millions and lose vehicle and not calling the artist's name. But it happens a lot. Now, all that required of you is the right person having a conversation, says structure your business like this. And do it from early so that consistently you can see the development. One of the things people don't appreciate when it comes to taxation is that if you were an ordinary business out there, and you had 5 bad years where you never made any profits. You had losses, which most persons in entertainment have to go through years where they're just investing in themselves. So technically they're making a loss because they're not making any money. But when you start earning those profits on the other years, they are cancelled out by the losses you made in the previous years. Imagine if entertainers did that. The amount of years' worth of taxes would have been written off because of the years that they were building themselves.
Record keeping. It comes down to, because everyone, you have to validate it. You go to the banks, you go to government for right, you have to validate everything. The bank want records. Can you show me how much coming in through your bank account? What is your salary? And you need, for self-employed individuals, you're going to need 12 months bank statement. Those of you would have done it. No, the bank, you can print paper until you figure out, wow, what is it? They're trying to figure out on average, what is it you're likely to qualify. So there are many people who go, artists in particular, creatives in general, for loans and get turned down, sadly so, right? Because you literally, we know they're earning the money, but we can't prove it. The records are not there. Some of it they get in cash.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I know that in agriculture we try to create little cooperatives and stuff. But from your end, Kerry, I know you had mentioned something backstage in regard to creating some type of funding mechanism that could help the creatives.
All right, thank you. So on the screen, what you're seeing is the Tourism Entertainment Academy that the Tourism Enhancement Fund is pursuing instructions by the Prime Minister to build at the Montego Bay Convention Center in Montego Bay. That's one of the many, many, many projects that the Tourism Enhancement Fund has invested in. You would know about Harmony Beach Park, you would know about the Elegant Corridor in Montego Bay, you know about the beaches program, the bus stops that we have all over the North Coast. We spend a lot of money, billions every year. And I don't want it to sound like I'm showing off. I'm saying this to say that Jamaica's #1 brand is not tourism. Jamaica's tourist #1 brand is you. It's culture, it's music. If a spacecraft picks up all of us and carries us over to Timbuktu and drop us off and leave and the dust settles and the Timbuktuans come out of their house and look at us and say, "Where are you from?" And we say, "Jamaica." What is the next word coming out of their mouths? I promise you, it's not going to be powder white sand beach and cascading waterfalls and horseback riding and so on. It's going to be Bob, right? So here it is, our #1 brand as a country is not the #1 income earning industry of the country. So we are something is amiss. There's something that we need to correct. Now, what Shaggy said a while ago, it reminded me so much of tourism pre-2004. Why I said pre-2004? Because the Tourism Development Master Plan was created 2004. And it's the same thing, bright industry stakeholders, brilliant people in the business, experienced, knowledgeable, brilliant ideas on how to grow it, see the amazing potential, but resources to do it, can't get it, go to government and the money. And tourism at that time said, you know what, we're not going to stop there. Let us collect from ourselves. Let us put a levy, a tax on every passenger coming into Jamaica. Right? Big opposition. All the hoteliers in those days is John Issa for Super Clubs and Butch Stewart. Big opposition. You're going to make Jamaica more expensive than your competitors. And blah, blah, blah. Whoa, we can't. No. And we fought and they put it in. Right? 2005, the Tourism Enhancement Fund was formed. Collect $10 from every airline passenger, and $2 from every cruise passenger. Tourism has grown since then. Because remember, every time we take that money, go into the fund, we have a board of industry stakeholders, Godfrey Dyers and before the other previous administration, it was slowly, and all experts in the industry administering what projects these funds should be spent on. So here we have an industry now with the bright minds, with the development plans, and now with the resources, now with the money. So tourism has grown 30 times Jamaica's national growth since that time. 30 times. When this year alone, we're ending March 31st, we are projected to contribute $9 billion, collect $9 billion in that fund. And so the more we collect and the more we invest in tourism, the more tourism grows. And the more tourism grows, the more business coming, so the more we collect. So we have grown year after year after year after year after year after year. So much so that every other ministry and every other agency comes to TEF and say, hey, you guys have money over there and tourists like to drive on smooth roads, so we fix this road for us, kind of thing, a pipe burst, I say, oh yeah, tourists need to get showers. After all, tourism, the experience is the experience here in Jamaica, so everybody can pretty much make a case. In 2017, however, the government decided to, because we got to the stage where we couldn't spend the money fast enough. So we had all the projects every year, but projects move a lot slower in Jamaica. We couldn't spend it fast enough, so we were then investing it. So the same banks that we were investing our TEF surpluses were the same banks the central government was borrowing from. And so they got smart, and hats off to them to say, hey, not just TEF, but about 3 or 4 other agencies that were collecting separately. When you collect, hand it over to them, and each year when you have your budget for what projects you're gonna do, we will give you back that amount. Obviously, it's a fraction of what we've given to them.
I must tell you, I'm not too excited about that last part of the process.
still, I think that the real point I want to bring across is, here we have tourism doing all that and growing at this by leaps and bounds. But we are agreeing that you are the #1 brand.
Definitely, the culture.
And what I think is missing, because you have the brains, you have the expertise, you have the brilliant stakeholders, you have the commitment, you have the drive. One thing that is lacking in your formula is the same funds, is the same money. And instead of cursing government, and I believe that especially now when we have digital downloads and so on, where it opens up opportunities, just as we have, yes, it's a funnel. Everybody who comes to Jamaica has to come on a boat or a plane. Is there Spotify? I don't know. Something, you guys are the expert. Anything that has a funnel of downloads or your products that you sell to the international market that could have that levy on, that could go into a music entertainment fund or even cultural entertainment fund, that when you and your board and your industry players now have this pool of resources to invest in, the world is your oyster. And I'm not, the developmental programs. For instance, we have tourism development programs in high schools. This cultural enhancement fund could invest in cultural development programs in high schools. I mean, the sports industry has a nice program of development, If a talent is born in Moko today and can run fast, our system will find them. They go primary school and have a sports day, and this guy fast. And then from primary school to high school, there's a coach and then champs, and they will be found.
Definitely.
But if you have a guy born today that can sing like there's no tomorrow, the next Bob Marley, for instance, do we have a automatic developmental program? I'm going to be lucky, probably have to join church and
first YouTube video get up and get viral.
But with resources and with a board that governs those resources and that development and so on, I really believe we can get your industry, I don't want to say my industry too, it's our industry, our cultural industry to where it is a skyscraper of an industry along with tourism, but we expect you to pass us because you're the #1 brand that this country has.
Well, definitely. We have just under 4 minutes before we go to question and answer because, of course, we want most of the discussion to be fed by your information. But I want to introduce an element that hasn't been introduced yet. The issue of risk management, personal risk management. Some people call it insurance, right? We've heard earlier about the GoFundMes that has come out of persons who have been in the industry, whether it is music, art, other forms of art, drama, whatever it is. And we wonder why. These are persons who would have earned comfortably over time, yet still you hear that somebody get what Jamaica call the big C, and you need to send out a GoFundMe. When it would have been so cheap on a monthly basis, annual basis, to take out like a critical illness plan. We have persons passing and their great legacy of being the biggest reggae artists or whatever artists during a period of time goes to naught when it comes to their kids because there's no insurance. I had to have a conversation with one of Jamaica's biggest producers in Jamaica. I can't call him name. But he showed me his studio. And we're having a conversation about the fact that him just upgrade him studio. His studio now worth about $150 million because it have different studios within the space and all of that. And I'm saying, all right, I know your 3 kids. If you should die tomorrow, do they have the cash to transfer that money, that property and the other properties that you own to them. And then think about it, no. The reality is that, like many others, would just fall in a position where they have to try sort of sell it out cheap so that they can get the money to even just transfer it into their own names, because we don't put systems in place for that level of transition. No, God bless Bob Marley, because most of them kids them can't sing. So they created their own money, and they had a system that allowed them to have some continuity. But how many major entertainers in Jamaica don't have a system? So their whole property will go to naught. And just to complete the thought, something as simple as health insurance. How many artists have health insurance? The other day we saw one of the more popular artists coming out, and he was in hospital for a little while, and everybody had GoFundMe again, just for him to have the simplest operation. Now it is so easy for us to come together as a grouping and say, all right, let's have a group health plan that is pretty cheap, simple annual payment, and all of us have a health insurance card. We can go doctor, go swipe. It is easy. But then who takes lead to pull persons together and make a conversation like that happen and allow persons to buy in? Because the persons who are creatives, them don't plan to go back into corporate, them don't plan to go back into structural systems that allow them to get these things automatic. So we now need to move in that direction and make it happen. So with under a minute, your thoughts on it, Lee.
Yeah, so the issue of estate planning for all of us, not just creatives. You work hard, or you're at your peak of your career, and life happens. Illness is a part of life, just like anything else, right? So we have seen it with our friends, with our family, and it's very expensive. We are living longer because healthcare has improved, but it is very, very expensive. And like anyone else in the population, there's no sector, there's no subsector that is immune from the happenings of what happens, right? So artists are traveling, their diet is not the best more often than not. You're on the road, you're sleeping in cramped quarters. Yeah, it's likely that lifestyle illnesses will reach you at some point. How do you plan and put aside to ensure that you have something in place in the event of happenings of life? I don't think that one should be difficult for most persons to accept.
Well, definitely. So we are jumping now to the question and answer segment. Of course, I'm already seeing about 3, 4, 5 hands. The lights are in my eyes, so if I don't see it yet, sit with me. I think your question in the middle here came first.
Hi. I've heard all that was said, but I think generally what exists is a language barrier. We're a black country under laws and rules written in white language. And so the question again is, how do we get to a point where we have a basic understanding of complex language? How you break down what a dividend income is, how you break down what interest income is, how you break down for an artist. How can I look at a balance sheet and make a decision from it? How do we get the government or whatever other players to put certain seminars, or knowledge is important. So we can always say, you can do the work for us, but then how do we understand it for ourselves to make decisions for ourselves?
And definitely I like that question. I'm going to allow Lee to take it, but I'm just going to juxtapose the response by how you ended. You don't need to be a professional in every field. When we get sick, we normally go to the pharmacy and take the basic stuff because we have a flu. But when we have a pain in the stomach, we're lasting a little too long, we go to the doctor. So that's the first barrier, even outside the language barrier. Our willingness to make a decision to speak to somebody who actually knows about these things, a specialist. But Lee.
So continuous education, regardless of which sector you're involved in, is important, right? Just like how you You'd sign an international contract with executives in the room looking to make money off your talent, right? And you have to be able to have those discussions to protect the same point that was made, your copyright, right? How do you charge fees? How inflation is high. You're charging $100,000 last year. You have no new hit, but life expenses have increased. How do you go about pricing your work? How do you do that? So you speak to industry professionals, you seek advice, you go to the place where you believe, and look here, we have a phone in our hand, you know. Let's be real about this. I know we like information by TikTok and just be scrolling, but the truth be told, what's in our hand is a powerful, really powerful tool. You literally can go on and say, hey, is this, I don't understand this. You have a schoolmate, banks around the place. You have a whole heap of professionals around the place who will give you free advice online. It is, if you expose yourself, you don't have to be able to read a balance sheet, it would be great. It really would be. But your creative talent is to produce what the world wants. And that's what we're looking to you for. If you have to sit down and learn spreadsheet and how to put every single thing, the world loses. I want you to be the best at what you have brought to this world. Then, when I know that your finances is in order, I know I'm getting the best from you, but I'm not going to discount continuous education regardless of which field you're involved in.
All right, I know we just touched on the surface to your answer, but we have quite a bit of questions. So if we can get back with some more detail, I will do that. Who is
Hi,
next?
my name is Kosti. I'm a music producer. I don't know if you ever heard about the World Economic Forum and the Agenda 2030. The director of World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab, he told us that in 2030 everyone has to stay home in about 15 minutes, you know, the cities of 15, 20 minutes, maybe you heard about it. Nobody has, you know, we don't have to have any properties, and someone who is not necessary to work, they're gonna give us like minimum guarantee incomes. So if you ever heard about this thing, and if you have any solutions for us, because we are making money now, but in about 6 years, these things are happening. Right now, big countries like Germany, Spain, France, they have Ministry of implementing the Agenda 2030. It's also based on carbon footprint. So if you ever heard about this, and maybe you have any solutions, because you know this money and inflations, they're gonna lead us there. Thank you.
And I'm going to ask her to take an element, but one of the things that I'm sure it has been mentioned here and must be reiterated is that there's a gentle shift in occupations. So as you realize, a lot of things that used to be major occupations a person to have are now digitized, are now done by robots. What we find when the assessment was done was that in 20 years, the number one job to have, the highest paying job, is going to be a creative. So between the creatives and the athletes, these are going to be the top earners when it comes to occupations, because no matter how you try bringing AI, there's going to be some elements that you just can't do. So we need to appreciate that and know that it makes sense to invest and stay true to this part of the industry, because it will be here no matter how far we go in other areas. But your experience on that in respect to the shifts.
Well, I think kind of the two questions kind of are related, believe it or not. I believe for Jamaica, that is so rich in potential, and have the gems that we have, whether it's natural assets, whether it's cultural assets, it's outstanding to the level where the conversion of it into wealth should make us a developed country, a first world country. We should be wealthy as a nation. So the conversion that has been lacking, I mean, we're getting there, but technology is opening these doors for a country like Jamaica much faster than for a developed country like the ones you mentioned, who have been operating at efficient levels for the most part. In fact, you mentioned the black and white consideration, which is one of Jamaica's artificial barriers that we've had ever since, so from our history, you know, where we call it classism and so on. If you look a certain way, there's a certain rule or law for you, your doors open faster, versus if you're not, or if for a certain address. We have a lot of artificial barriers that technology will erase. Because when you go online, nobody, think about your banking app right now. 10 years ago, you had to join the line, wait, the line wrap up outside the door. And so if you were somebody, you could get a blind and get in. And if you were nobody, you were stuck in the line for 5 hours. No, everybody, big man, small man, brown man, black man, Rasta ballad, everybody is getting through on the same pace because they're in the banking app. And as we get more and more of technology, eroding all these artificial barriers in a country that is sitting on this gold mine, sitting on these gems, I promise you, we are going to grow exponentially. And if more of us wake up to that, it's almost like so many Jamaicans are still trying to jump the fence when the gate is open.
We're not trained shades on Sean Paul.
So the technology, that phone in your hand, as Lee said, is opening up so many doors. Before 10 years ago, to get one guest in your hotel, you had to go to a travel show, you had to sign a contract with a tour operator, you had to meet with travel agents, you had to have all these things before you get one guest. No, you pull out your phone, Airbnb, boom, you're talking to the market right away. You book them,
Definitely.
boom, the money's in your account, boom, they're here. You're making money. So the defenses have fallen. Let us walk through and claim our wealth that we deserve.
All right, I'm seeing at least 12 hands, but I'm watching my time. So we have to go be a bit faster in our responses so that we can get through more. So, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon. My name is Rasta Kura, and I'm a dub poet. You know, I also host the annual This Poem Words and Agro Festival, which is coming up on the end of April in Portland. You know, my question is directed to Mr. Wallace. You know, how do people who organize events like a annual poetry festival, you know, seek sponsor and partnership from tourism enhancement funds? Because we have been trying to do it unsuccessfully for a couple of years, and would like to know how to have a dialogue or a conversation about, you know, sponsoring events, cultural events.
Excellent question.
All right, so thanks for the question. So we are not like a private sector sponsor, meaning the TEF brand doesn't need, if you put advertise us in your paper and put our brand, that's not what's important for us. We are for developing the destination. We are enhancing destination Jamaica. Now, how do you enhance destination Jamaica? You have infrastructure, obviously. You have to make sure the roads to the attractions are fixed and nice. You have to make sure that the skill set of our team meets the demands for the tourism sector. But it also means, how can we reach out on all these cultural gems that we have in Jamaica that may be undeveloped? How can we go in and support their development so that before nobody knew about surfing in Jamaica, for instance, can we look at the pocket of surfing, and if there's an organized group that has a plan to develop a surfing program, we will say yes, because now Destination Jamaica will have sun, sea, sand, reggae, culinary, everything, but non surfing. So, Dub Poet, how can we facilitate the development of Dub Poet as one of the offerings that Destination Jamaica has? But so once you understand that distinction, so it's not annually, every year you come to TEF to try and get money, because we are busy using the money to develop the next gem. We expect you, we're like push-starting vehicles. We're not pushing vehicles. We're going to push you, and we expect you to juke start, and then you take off on your own. You understand that the fundamental difference with the TEF and our sponsorship and so on is developmental. One of the big programs we're doing as well is linkages. The tourism market that's here, the 4.1 million people that come out, want to experience what Jamaica provides. So one of the things that we do is try and facilitate linking what Jamaicans offer, whether it's the manufacturers, whether it's the farmers, whether it's the cultural providers that we have here locally to patronize them. So we support, let's say, Rebel Salute, which is one of the most recent cultural events that we supported. We went in not to sponsor Rebel Salute like a Red Stripe or one of those. We went and worked out a deal to get an area in Rebel Salute where we then brought artisans in to then sell their products, their Jamaican-made products there, and we paid for a DJ, and we paid for the tents, and we paid for the booths, and we paid for everything for them to be there to then have an opportunity for their Jamaican-made products to sell to the tourist market. So once you understand what we do, some people just send their sponsorship package to us with kit, gold, platinum, blah, blah, blah. And I'm saying to them, understand what TEF is about, and you're a lot more likely to benefit. Show us how, when we invest this year, your event becomes a polished gem, adding to the crown of gems that is Destination Jamaica.
All right, thanks, Emil. I say, he's next? Okay, right here.
Thank you.
And then
Hello?
go over that side. Yes.
Yeah, my name is Rudy. I'm all the way from Ghana in West Africa.
Welcome, sir.
And I want to say that what the TEF man said, sorry, I missed your name. You're right. The culture is your biggest export of Jamaica, because you mentioned Jamaica. In Ghana, it's not a destination. This is 14 hours away. It will probably never come. But we know reggae, we know the Morgans, we know Bob Marley, and we know all the dancehall artists. And there's a whole counterculture that is unexplored. People speak patois like they were born here. We don't know what they are speaking, but it makes sense. It's got the accent and the twang to it, and we embrace it. So that culture, and every street artist, every 100 meters you find, there's always a Rasta man drawn in there. And there's always a caricature of Bob Marley. Like if he was collecting royalties on the streets of Ghana, it's another billion. And I just wanted to, and it's the same thing for Ghana as a country. Like I was so excited I had the woos. Our biggest export is also culture. Whether it's our founder and Chroma, or whether it's Black Stars as a team, or music or Afrobeat, it's the same thing. And now let me move to my question. There's a very big barrier, it's imaginary, between money managers and the creative sector. And it's one word, trust. There's a very unhealthy mistrust between the two, where a creative summons the primordial spirits, whatever, to create something out of the air, which the bankers wants to see an asset. Not all of us, we don't lay bricks, we lay beats. And that's unquantifiable. But that mistrust in what you put in as a valuation to that process, as against what you will call asset. My asset is my catalog, is my music, is whatever product that I'm bringing to people. There's the millions of people that pay $1 to turn up or stream, but then the money manager wants to talk physical things. You want to see the bricks on the ground. You want to see my car. How do we get over that process? And also, how do we break the barriers of mistrust? Because
first shot at that.
That's a big thing. Creatives just don't trust bankers. And bankers look at creatives like, you don't know what it is, but we create billions by the second.
And don't believe the banking sector don't know that. But so I want to agree with you first, to accept that there's a trust factor, major trust factor. But bankers anywhere want to be able to quantify, right? And so in order to quantify, you need structure. So I can see the house, I can see the apartment, I can see the car, and somebody can value it. I see a catalog, and all of us know you can price the catalog. You can price it today, you can price it 20 years into the future. But I go back to where I started for simplicity. If you have no structure, I know you're earning. I see all the trappings of the lavish lifestyle. I see all of that. I ask you to show me your banking, your tax receipts, your performance, where. I should ask you to show me all of that, and you'll say, but you see, you watch TV. You have X amount. If you can quantify it for me, I can price it. If I can't quantify it, I can't price it. And therein starts the discussion downhill. So, a conference like this speaks to structure. In tourism, we can tell how many guests coming to the country per year. A hotel can tell you swipe your card. You can tell how many streams. And yes, slowly over time we'll start to evolve. We can tell how much you get from royalty, etc., because you can show the contracts that you have with the music houses, etc. You have a proper structure in place. And until and unless we get to that point, that distrust is going to be difficult to remove, to say, okay, here's the product, here's the value, I'm lending based on this. And it is a two-way. I'm not saying that the banks can't move, but I'm saying, remember, banks are financial institutions. It's not really their money. It's actually still your money, because your money is still in the institution. They have a responsibility, a fiduciary responsibility to also protect that money. So unless you come with a bankable plan, it is difficult sometimes to get over that. But it is a conversation that if this conference, etc., is to make sense, and I see it happening in the sporting fraternity, same way, then we're not going to move forward as effectively and as quickly as we'd like.
And I'm happy you segue to the fact that we have conferences like this. It's for that reason. I have a fundamental problem with a lot of the management companies, the artist management companies, that don't help artists to put these structures in place, because that's what we're looking for. So even in insurance, where I am at, it's hard for us to justify whether you are worth or you're able to get a $50 million policy versus 100 versus 500, because there's absolutely no structure. But I think, who's the next one, please? Oh, way up there, sorry.
Hi.
And we have just about 5 minutes, so we have to move quickly.
Yeah, man, a quick one. My name is Jonathan Newman. Good afternoon. From Just Bus TV. I just wanted to talk about the barriers that you mentioned, that, technology is, reducing some of the barriers. But that same technology, when it comes down to Jamaica in particular, and I'm sure it's for a lot of Caribbean islands as well, that those technologies still have actually barriers within them. So I wanted to add, so for instance, DSPs, you can't, if you're on like iTunes, you can't buy when you're in Jamaica, you know what I mean? And those are, so it's kind of like if Airbnb, you couldn't, nobody in Jamaica could use Airbnb to rent an Airbnb, if you get what I'm saying, right? So how can we get the government or the powers that be to change those policies, especially, when it comes down to, that kind of thing with the banks hooking up to those DSPs as well, all of that stuff, so that we don't have to go through these hoops where we're registering in America, where that's literally what we have to do, or you have to use other technologies to literally trick the system that you're not in Jamaica in order to do these things.
That is an amazing question and statement, and I don't even think we need to go too deep in answering it than to say, let us put it forward to the powers that be. We already have persons from the government side of things here. It's just a matter of somebody putting together a proposal. I'm not sure where Sharon Burke is and Judith Bodley, but putting forward a proposal to say these are some of the problems that we're having. Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ministry of Finance, and Ministry of Tourism and Culture, just put it forward and fix it. So I believe it's an easy fix. We just need somebody to head the process. So I have another question here. I have about 3 or 4 questions here I want to get out quickly. Oh, it's the guys with the mic. I'm not sure where they are. Oh, right here. Okay. Our microphone is off. Oh, turn it on. Just turn it on quickly.
Kia ora, I'm
Yeah.
Catherine from New Zealand.
Welcome.
I'm a music tourist. Okay, I find that there's a huge disconnect between the music industry and the tourism industry in this country. Yeah, I think there's a lot of room for improvement in the tourist industry for sure. And I think, the music industry could possibly help with improving the tourist industry if seed funding was available for musicians to capacity build in the communities to maybe improve the environment or improve some of the community spaces which they could use as venues for musicians.
Well,
and
you're talking
events.
to the right man.
Right, so thank you and welcome. And that's the direction that we're heading in tourism. We are going for all-inclusive tourism, meaning all of Jamaica included in our tourism, not all-inclusive, but all of Jamaica included in our tourism offering, in our tourism space, not just to supply tourism, but to benefit from the tourism dollar. And one of the projects TAF is doing, for instance, is that we're developing 12 public beaches across the length and breadth of Jamaica, where we're going into these beaches that are, luckily we're blessed with that many, and we put in parking, put in boardwalks, put in kiosks, put in restaurants, put in restrooms, and so on, so that the communities within a 5-mile radius of that asset can now become tourism entrepreneurs. I mean, my vision is for almost every parish to have communities where there's a high street with almost like a Bourbon Street in New Orleans, where you have cultural assets, nightlife like crazy, visitors enjoying themselves like there is no tomorrow. I mean, that's the potential we have as Jamaica. Remember, what we have is just so amazing as a country on this planet. We have, you mentioned the beach, there people may have better beaches, but the combination of the beaches and the mountains and the waterfalls and the culture and so on make us stand out amongst better than many others. We're the third largest English-speaking country in the Americas. Not sure if many of you noticed that. It's US number 1, Canada number 2, Jamaica is number 3. Best coffee in the world, Blue Mountain Coffee. The 7th largest natural harbor in the world. You want me to keep going? the top 4 best mineral spa in the world.
Yes, and I've been to.
The best cocoa in the world. The best ginger in the world. The best turmeric in the world.
Cocoa, we're hardly
the best
producing
black castor oil in the world. How are we so overblessed?
We are actually out of time, but what I'm going to ask you to do, there's about 5 persons. I'm going to ask that all of you just put forward your question/statement, and then we wrap up quickly. So I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So let's go through it quickly.
Yes, so my name is Nathan Davis. I'm from the Yardie Group of Companies, and we are a young entertainment brand that does the works in lifestyle and entertainment. And we've been in a situation where all of these things that have been mentioned today is mainly about the informal structure that the entertainment industry has here in Jamaica. It is informal because there's a disconnect between the language, and then there's a disconnect between creatives being able to get the necessary resources that they need in order to facilitate themselves in this industry. As you said, it's a lot of jailbreaking, it's a lot of jumping around stuff, VPNs, registering in different countries. That doesn't benefit our economy if we're registered in a different country. Registering here and doing business in Jamaica is better in those capacities, but we are all having to go around in other opportunities, other spaces to do this. As you said, there is no system to bring up a person in high school in order for them to be on that level to say, all right, now I can transition into these things. We have the clubs, we have the festivals, we have these stuff, but it ends right there. As high school is done, you don't talk about a JCDC festival inside your workplace. you go and you fall back into the regular system, or you miraculously bust and have that space. So what I want to ask, especially because you all are from different places of finance, in insurance, government, and from the bank, to say, what are the things that we need to do now to make that change now? Because as my organization is doing, one of our projects that we have for this year is to create that high school representation where we can build that system to get a creative in high school to a point where they're networking with persons in this capacity, as well as to the points where we can communicate on a regional and an international level.
Well, definitely. We'll try to post some of these responses online, by the way, because we need answers to some of these questions, but we're just quickly trying to run through.
Hi, folks. I'm not in the industry, but this is what I'm hearing. You need a plan. The tourism industry happened because of a plan. The Blue Mountain Coffee happened as a geographical indicator because it was a plan, because the people in the industry got together, made a plan, and then took that plan to someone in government who had the power and the money, Carrie, sorry you're it, in order to execute that plan. You cannot expect government to answer or do for you what you have the answers for. If you know the answers, create a plan, and a plan that is cogent, a plan that can be written down on paper, a plan that can be executed, a plan that has deliverables, and take it to somebody who understands those indicators, because a man like Kerry has to turn around and report to somebody upstairs as to, you used my money, what did I get for it? Going to a bank or anything of that nature, the same thing. He has to report to his boss, what did I get for it? Insurance, give you an example. The senior citizens in this country have gotten together under the CCRP and went to Sagicor in order to say, if I'm a senior citizen and I'm part of this group, can I get insurance at a lesser cost than if I walked in on my own? So now they have an insurance plan that is cheaper than everybody else. How many musicians, if you all got together and joined a group and walked into Sagicor and said to, Sagicor, look here, we have X thousands of people who are paying our dues, and we want a plan with Sagicor. You think Sagicor not going to give you a health plan?
Gladly. We actually intend to, so talk to me afterwards. But with that said, I'm so sorry. We have to cut. We're about 10 minutes over the time. Thank you so much to my friends, Lee Craft and Kerry. Thank you for having us. Thanks for the questions.